So, joining us on the How Did You podcast today is Alan Brice. He's been around the Call of Duty scene since 2013, and he's pretty much been a part of every single event you can think of. How are you doing today, Brice?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, as I alluded to in the intro, you've been a part of the Call of Duty scene for quite a while now. You've witnessed all the Insomnia events, you've witnessed the Call of Duty championships and everything like that. But if somehow Call of Duty Championship made it over to London, where would you host it?
Interesting question. And not because the easiest answer would be the copper box. The copper box needs some infrastructure maybe for an event that big. It could probably do it pretty well. I think other than that, it's probably the O2. I mean, if you're going to do champs in the UK, it's got to be London. The Manchester Arena might be nice, actually, now I think about it. So one of those locations, but the difficulty in having champs is London is timing and dates and everything else. And getting you got to remember that Call of Duty is heavily North American centric. So there's a lot of staff that want to come out there. So it's very easy to get everyone out to like LA or Florida or Miami or whatever. So yeah, but champs in London should happen.
You mentioned that the Call of Duty League has now become a kind of North America dominated area, but there's also quite a few European teams that have been brought into the fold. Like your Toronto Ultra is a European-based team, and so is your London Royal Ravens. But what kind of challenges teams would you like to see enter the franchise league?
Quite a few of them. I'm going to be honest with you. I think the challenges players at the moment deserve more of a shot. And the best thing that's actually happened in the last 2 years is that a lot of challengers players have kind of come up and proved themselves, right? We saw Hixie debut just a few days ago, coming from challengers. I've known Hixie in challengers for quite a while. Said he should have probably come up a long time ago, especially with European players. Steve-O's another one. I think Steve-O's got a bad rap. Several years ago, he had a bit of an off here, but you win everything in challengers for 2 years. Somebody just have to give you a shot, right? So there are a good amount of play, and I think the best part about this is some of the other teams are starting to realize that maybe they haven't looked deep enough into Europe, and maybe they can find players, little players that are left. They can get into it. They maybe don't have the experience. The North Americans don't have the connections to figure out who's actually good in Europe. So that's probably the biggest gate for it. If it wasn't people like Marky B, we'd probably only have the London Royal Ravens with a European team.
Let's focus on yourself, because you've been part of the Call of Duty scene for quite a while now, and you've seen people come and go. And you've been part of the Call of Duty scene for, 9 years now? So...
Well, it's interesting you say that, actually, because like you said 2013, and I can't remember exactly when I started. I feel like it might have been earlier than that, because I go by games. I got into Call of Duty at COD 4, second year of COD 4. So I was trying to figure out how long.
My research says the Call of Duty regional finals, the European ones in 2013.
See, I started way before then, because I did like I-45 was my first official casting gig, and I was competing before that and doing media around the scene. And then before that, I was on Game Battles, and before that, it was Halo. And I was a community manager in a land in Colchester. Like I did, that's the thing. Like as a commentator, yeah, but unfortunately, I'm not just a commentator. Like I've done an awful lot of stuff in this. I was never a good competitor, but I've done an awful lot of stuff in esports that no one really knows. They just know me for the guy with stupid hair and who's quite large in English. But yeah, other than that, I've been around quite a while. But sorry, you said 2013. I just thought I'd interrupt you there before we go any further. Yeah, it's been over a decade.
My apologies, but let's take it back even further. Did Brice or Alan, as you are...
Touch me, Brice. It's Brice. It's never Alan.
Did Brice ever imagine that when he was younger, he wanted to be involved in Call of Duty, or was it something completely different?
Interesting question. So I used to be a printer, a machine minder for a while. I went to like the family business, and I hated it. It broke me. And there was parts I thought obviously did what every young guy thinks about joining the army. I was quite into engineering at the time. I'm still very much obsessed with engineering and fluid dynamics and stuff. But yeah, kind of. I think I was always a massive gamer. It used to be like an issue. I just used to want to play like everything all the time. Used to bug people who had the latest games on PC if I didn't have it, because I didn't always have that stuff when I was younger. But yeah, and it was kind of that thing where essentially I had a career and everything, and I got more interested in competing. I love the intensity of competing. I started competing. I was never a good competitor because I loved having a drink or two at the events, and that became more of a social gathering thing. But I saw the commentators going, I said I could probably do that, and I was getting into community management actually with a business. So I went into community management, and the community management kind of went into casting, and then I started getting more and more casting work. And a few years down the line, I quit my job and jumped fully on board.
When the Call of Duty League became franchised, it meant that they were strict on the kind of cast of teams that they chose, and that unfortunately meant that you and Tom were left out. But you recently made your debut this past weekend, and you seem to be having a lot of fun with it. Like, we had the Super Bowl, or should I say Superb Owl.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't want me to do that joke, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it regardless. It's interesting, this whole being left out in the cold thing. Yeah, COD comes and goes. Like, I have COD running through my blood, and I have in the esports for a long time. And people who know me in Call of Duty have known me for forever, right? Sometimes the North American side haven't maybe liked me as much as I wish they would have done, but the English side always has. But I've also, and this is the thing, like, I've done more than just talking about Call of Duty. I was part of Gfinity when it started up. I've ran my own events. I did an ice series. I've done LAN events in Colchester. I've had my own team. I've done media side of it, right? I've done production. I've done all these things, and I've also worked in 15 different titles in esports. And I hosted Twitch Rivals a lot last year, right? I did about 20 events at Twitch Rivals. I've done all the most of the esports you can think of. It's not the newest one. I've done CS:GO. I've done League of Legends. I've done Rainbow Six. I've done PES, I've done FIFA, I've done Rainbow. I've just done things. I've done things with celebrities. I was invited to the Titanfall thing about whether or not that was going to become an esport. It never did. There's like a lot of stuff that I've ended up doing. So not being in COD, it sucked. Don't get me wrong. It's not a lot of fun. I don't know why it took up until now, but eventually they come to their senses. It just took them a decade. But I was involved pretty heavily before it kind of become more North American centric. I feel like people forget that. When all the Gfinity events were coming on, I was the one, bringing the talent together. I was dictating the way they were going on. I've done basically every European event you can do. I've worked with DreamHack, ESL, all this sort of stuff. And there are times where I've gone my own way, right? So yeah, does it suck to not be part of the CWL or the CDL? Yeah, but at the same time, I was never out. A lot of my friends were involved. I was always watching. There was always events coming through, but I was doing other things. So yeah, it's cool to be on the inside now, and it's the talent team we have now is awesome. So yeah, I'm good.
You mentioned that it's very North American dominated, but since yourself and Tun have been put back into the fold, and we have a balance kind of the casters, do you feel like, because there's more of a European representation from yourselves and Miles and people like that, that there is more of an impact on the Challengers teams to perform well, so we get more Challengers teams from Europe in the league?
I would like it if there's more UK teams, like 100%. Like 100%. Like, I know so many UK players that aren't getting a fair shot. The problem is, I'm hoping the league will expand, and I don't know the expansion of this. Here's the thing. I've only actually been in the CDL 2 weeks, right? This is the timeline of it all, because I didn't even know. I think you asked me a couple of weeks ago to do this. I had no idea at that point. I was not in the CDL 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
Right? I was just not involved. I didn't even sign. When we did that announcement, I signed like 2 days before. And then I got the offer a week before. So I did my introduction video, and I'd only been with the company like 2 days. The introduction when I jumped on the stream. Then the next week I was casting, and now obviously this is the Tuesday after. So like, I've barely even been with the CDL. I still don't even know, right, about the payment details and everything to go through. I haven't even had that proper meeting yet. Like, I have to have meetings about stuff. Just stuff's been sent here. Like, there's still like, this room is actually a mess because I've had to been fixing stuff up for it. The backdrop for me has been lost, by the way. The post has lost my backdrop, which is why me and Tom were green screening last weekend. They made Tom switch back to a green screen because mine was lost in the post. They sent me somewhere in the region of 137 kilos of equipment in the first drop. I got that. Then I've had 2 more deliveries. One was for just like adapters and sponsor stuff, and another one was a specific headset because of sponsorship stuff. I didn't actually use that. I went and got some Shure in-ears with Ton. And then this third one is the backdrop, and the backdrop has not arrived. So I had to go green screen. So this room is all kind of been torn up for that. But yeah, so it's kind of weird. Like, I've only been in the CDL a little while, and I have no idea what is going on yet. So I have no idea about franchises for next year. I have no idea what they're changing. I've barely had a chance to speak to anyone apart from the immediate talent team and production and Alison, who's kind of been my only point of contact with the CDL. So yeah, everything's still very much up in the air. But 100%, I'm hoping there's at least 4 to 8 teams joining next year. And I imagine Europe will be plundered as long as people want to pay for the visas.
Speaking of visas, you mentioned briefly that you might be getting one. Do you think that with the Call of Duty League developing, that means you might be moving over to America?
So, I don't know what I can say. I say whatever I want. So I already technically have a visa for working in the United States under the journalist sort of tag, because it's what I do. I cover games. That is for a company that's now defunct, so that's no longer really viable. So I can't go over to America yet. I don't know if I'm going to be at the first event. It's very much up in the air. I am going for a full visa to work with Activision. It's not going to involve me moving over there this year. I don't know if it involves me moving over next year. Like I said, I haven't got that far down the road, right? I don't know anything. I don't know who to go to book flights yet for anything. So it's going to be a long road for that one. Yes, I'm in the process of getting a visa. Yes, Tunnin as well. It's slightly better because we both had visas in the past to work for Activision. But nothing moves slow in bureaucracy, and I'm just it's fingers crossed at this point. Genuinely, it's touch and go whether or not I'm there. I'm hoping I will be there. The lawyers are working very, very hard to get me out there. I think Tan is pretty confident. I'm a couple of days behind him because of the short way I joined. So, and genuinely, a couple of days could be the difference. So we'll find out. We'll see. Living in America will be interesting. I have a lot of family ties over here. And it would be an interesting prospect. It would probably be something like I'd just go out for 8 months and then come back. That'd be easier for me.
There's obviously a person behind the commentator, and you must have been able to do some experiences that we would all dream of. But is there a certain kind of experience that sticks within your head that you think of, whether it be casting, competing, or just running an event from behind the scenes?
I think as I've got older, I've grown to love it more, if anything. The funny thing is I actually hate being on camera. I'm not a big fan. It's a self-esteem thing more than anything. I enjoy using my voice for stuff. Voiceover stuff has always been my preferred kind of method of doing stuff, and I've changed my accent dramatically over the last 10 years. But I think things like the first Call of Duty Championship was great. I mean, don't get me wrong, the experience from production was terrible. Like they didn't really get everything done they should have done. But going out to LA, having a lot of fun out there. Then I get to travel the world. And it was only probably 5 years ago I really started to appreciate that. I was at, I want to say St. Louis, and I was in a bar and people were drinking. And I was like, this is great. I get to come out here and I get to have an awful lot of them talking games and stuff. I'm very much a person that cares about the product and less about people caring it's me. Like, I really don't care about that. Like, I'm surprised if anybody ever wants a signature or a photo or anything. It's never been my main goal. I just learned to enjoy the fact that I get to do this for a living, and I don't have to work a 9 to 5 or all the time or in a factory like I used to. Like I did 8 years as a kind of a just genuine worker, right? I did that. I did night shifts, 12-hour shifts. You get dirty, tired, you're tired every time. This is a very different kind of work. This is more about mental focus. And yeah, in my mind, the more I do it, the more I enjoy it, because I can appreciate how privileged I am to be in this position. I am 100% privileged. No matter how bad years I've had or how bad things have looked being a freelance caster, I still get to do. I've still somehow made it to this point, still doing it. And I'm not working in a pub, which is probably my fallback option for a little while.
Recently on your channel, you focused a lot on mental health, and you decided to talk about how you've been out of the gym for quite a few times because of injuries and things like that. And you've also alluded to in there that there was a lot of comments that people gave you that weren't really pleasant. How do you feel? Because you provide content for people and you are the reason that they get that content with the commentary, but they're not that nice sometimes. How do you deal with it?
Yeah, people are rude as shit, man. The problem I think I have is that I'm a confrontational person, right? I don't have the cleanest of history before I got into esports in terms of, like, I was very much a lad back then, right? So just a very confrontational person. I wouldn't take shit off people. I'm much more mellow nowadays. Don't let anybody on the talent team know that. They'll tell you you're lying. I think what bothers me more is critique on my work. And if it's good, if it's genuine critique, the problem is I know what I'm supposed to be doing with casting, and I'm my own harshest critic. So I know a good caster when I hear them. And trying to apply, I don't think I'm anywhere near as good of a caster as I should be right now, right? Even coming into the league, I haven't really cast properly in about 4 or 5 years. I've been hosting a different bunch of games. I've never really got a chance to work on it. I did challenges last year. I was one of the part of the 3 challenger teams that did the casting stuff. I only worked out to about 20 days of casting a year. And even then, that only works out to about 2-3 games, a day, right? That's not a lot. And then I'm hosting Twitch rather than doing everything else. The weight thing bothered me for a while. It still bothers me now, because I thought, here's the thing, I think they're right. I think I am too big. And that's always gonna be a even at my probably my fittest, I was still carrying a good amount of like size on me. It's only when you put me next to other people that you realize that an awful lot of that was muscle. Like I went to the gym with some of the other talent, and I was just very much into lifting in those days, and I was kind of shocked how little they were lifting because I thought they were like about the same size I was, and they're not. I enjoy being strong. I've always enjoyed being strong and stuff like that's good for me. I don't enjoy being on camera when I'm overweight, which I have been for the last 2 years. Terrified of going to the first event. It's going to be a bad problem. The hair stuff never really bothers me anymore, because as far as I'm concerned, it's my hair. You can go fuck yourself. Like if people want to have a problem with a hairstyle, then change your own hair. I don't really care what you think. I enjoy having mine like it is. It's been wild for the last 15 years. It's going to be wild for the next 15 until it goes, right? So yeah, like criticism is not a big problem for me anymore. A lot of time I laugh at it. Even those who critique my casting, a lot of time they don't know what they're talking about. Genuinely don't know what I'm talking about. I can have in-depth conversation with commentators, and when we talk about cadence, tone, the tempo, the way that you're breaking things down, and the way you bring people into that situation and give them your excitement to build more on the gameplay, that's important to me. The fact you don't like me, I don't care. I don't care. I genuinely don't care. There's people I sometimes reply to on Twitter, and I'm just like, I don't care. I'm just gonna have fun with it. The person who said they despised me on Reddit the other day, which I thought was hilarious. But yeah, it's easier as time goes on. I think if I was getting a lot of hate, like some of my colleagues have gone, it would be worse. But the fans and Reddit and everything so far have been really quite positive about myself. And that's weird because I don't think I'm doing very well right now. But if you ever knew anyone who's spoken to me, you know that's not an unusual feeling for myself. If it's not perfect, I think it's crap. So we'll get there, and I will need to put a lot more reps in this year to really develop my casting to a point that I want it to be at.
I think you're absolutely brilliant, Brice, to be fair. But
well, unfortunately, you don't know what you're talking about. So
I'm not a caster, so that clearly proves your point. But I'm going to be evil. Ton doesn't exist anymore. Who's your new caster duo?
First of all, Ton doesn't exist anymore. That's great. I don't know who my next duo would be. I think I would probably lean further into play-by-play. So somebody really good in color would be great. Maybe like a Revan or someone along those lines. I'd have to have a closer look at the personalities in challenges at the moment. Like I've spoken to Brody, spoken to Visions, spoken to Shift for a little bit, Spaceman. I don't know how well we would gel chem-wise. The difference between me and Tan is that we have very good chemistry because we've known each other over a decade, right? And we've gone through some stuff together, right? I was at his wedding. There's a very deep history with me and Tan, and the way we first met was not pleasant. So yeah. So even then, me and Tan aren't perfect duo. I think going into the challenges would be great. I would love to see Ellen get some more reps. Stream Crazy. I thought the way she handled last year was incredible, genuinely. And I told her so. I said this. We went through some VOD reviews, and I gave her some pointers on here. She definitely needs some more reps to polish up and develop her craft. But she came on so fast, so quick, leaps and bounds last year in challenges with us. I was genuinely impressed. And I'm hoping to see her get some more casting in because I think she's going to be great. So that will be an interesting one. And I would love, I'd love to see Ellen again to casting as a duo ship. Yeah, sure. I think if we can nail down the chemistry with that one and get a lot more reps in, then probably that's part of the issue. When you go for a duo, you've really got to work on it and figure out if you're going to work together. Some don't click as nicely. If you could see behind the screens when we talk to the talent duos that we currently have, great friends. Most of just all of them get along super well, and that's like really important. Like you don't want to jar. There are always conflicts. There have been conflicts in the past. I don't get along with everybody. Not everyone gets along with me. It's just one of those things that happens more than anything. And I said this when I went into the challenge team, and I said it to the CDL team. The same thing I've always said, right? We are as soon as I signed that contract and I've joined the team, I've accepted that is the team for the year or whatever length of contract. We're a team. That's it. I'm not going to bitch about you unless I have an issue with you. I'll talk to you directly. I'm not going to go off and moan to somebody else in management about you. As far as I'm, unless you're a weirdo, then I'll probably mention it. But we're a team. If you need my help, and this happened in challenges, if you need help with something, I'm here. I have a lot of experience out of things like production and lighting and stuff. Just come and talk to me. It's not going to be an issue. right? Ellen did it. She come and did VODs. I think Brody did it. We helped sort his lighting set up. We talked about some of his stuff, right? Me and Tan have gone through VOD reviews. I've done VOD reviews before. I can help set the lighting up a little bit better with people. Obviously, the lighting at the moment is not amazing because the lights are being used for the green screen in other places here, but it's better than most people would give you, right? Like, genuinely. And I think a lot of people don't get that. I feel like they're out for themselves. There are some people at the moment in esports that are very much not about being friendly with people. And being friendly with people is it sounds stupid, like you don't have to have friends to have, but just be nice. Work hard, work honest, and get along with people because you're going to be with them for an awful long time. There are some people who are so focused on themselves they can't see outside that perspective, right? And I don't want to call out anyone out directly, even though I should. These people need to get over themselves and understand that this is still meant to be fun. And if you're not having fun because you're too wound up too tight, you're going to make it bad. And I've seen that with teams that I've worked with in the past in esports. Some of them are great, some of them are not so great, but there are always personality conflicts. But yeah, I think it's an interesting question who will my next UOB. I imagine whoever the CDL will want. I know Ali was going to be a caster at one point. I think she's come on leaps and bounds as well. I said that to her actually probably 4 or 5 months ago, that she is fantastic from when I first met her when we did Open together. So yeah, like that. There are a lot of good commentators I've worked with, like a lot. And any of them, especially because I've been doing Twitch Rivals, I've met like a new duo every week. So many of them could do this. An ex-player, I think, would probably be a good one. I know who it is. I figured it out. I figured out who my next duo is. Callum Swan.
Oh, yes. Good shout.
Callum
Because
Swan.
where's he been?
Oh, he's about mostly playing chess and Warzone. He's always about. I speak to him fairly regularly, and he hates me for putting pictures of him on the timeline. And we had a slight disagreement last week because I was going to wear a picture of him on a T-shirt for my first cast. And I actually got approval for it. And then he was like, don't do it, Brice. I was like, come on, we got to. And he's like, no, don't do it. And I was like, all right, fine. Because he asked me. But yeah, it'll probably be Callum Swan as my next joke because that just makes the most sense. And I drag him back out of retirement.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those names because Call of Duty for a while has been quite a male-dominated commentator game. But since then, come in and they're doing absolutely fantastic. But I'm going to be evil. You're not part of the CDL anymore.
Okay.
You're doing brilliant.
I've just got you.
I want all the dirt and I want everything to happen. I'm going to be nosy. What game would you go to if Call of Duty wasn't around anymore?
Yeah, I think Halo would be a good shout. Like my actual handle, Brice-tacular, is based off Halo. It's based off Kill-tacular from Halo. It's not based off Spectacular, which a lot of people think. I have a Halo helmet in the front room right now. Like, I'm a big Halo fan. Actually, let me tell you a story. I'm gonna take your point and I'm gonna just ruin it. So I did some Halo gigs, did some Halo hosting, and I had some members of the crowd really hate me too, like a couple, guy and a girl, come over and they afterwards at the after party hated me. They said I thought I was a dick. They thought it was there just for a paycheck, and everything else. And I'm like, why? And they're like, well, you were just sitting at the desk out front on your phone the entire time the game was on. And I went, that's, first of all, not true. I said, and there is a reason for that. I said, there are things you don't understand about the way it works. One, the arena was new. There was no phone signal at all behind main stage. None. So my phone would just be dead. Couldn't talk to anyone, couldn't text anyone, nothing. Right? I said, two, I'm wearing an earpiece all day with the commentary literally always in my ear. Never went off. So I heard commentary all day long. I said, and three, there's a screen in the desk. You can't see it, but there is a screen in the desk. So when I have the phone there and I'm looking down, I can still see the game. I'm like, oh, we didn't realize. I'm like, it's because you've made an assumption on who I am. And anybody would tell you I love esports and I love Halo and I love everything about it. Right? Like Halo 3 was what really first got me. Halo 2. Halo 2 was what first got me into it. And that's playing against my mates. That's what got me into competitive gaming. Then a lot of my mates stopped playing it and they played COD 4 and I went to COD 4. And then Halo 3 came out and I was on night shifts and I got an Xbox 360 in the middle of my supposed sleep time. Got it from Curry's, come back, plugged it. I think it was Curry's, I can't really remember. Got Halo 3 and started there getting the update. And I got my phone. And that's the reason, Halo 3 is the reason my handle is Brice-tacular and not what my old gamer tag is. Because I failed setting up my Xbox Live account and had to pick a different name because I couldn't figure out what I was doing. back then. Like, it was supposed to, my old game tag was Voltage. That was who I was and everything else. And I've started a new account for some reason on live and didn't use that gamer tag, so it was always going to become Brice, and then Brice tag to come out of that. I have had conversations about Halo. I've had conversations about Valorant as well. I was speaking to a producer just the other week. Actually, before I signed the CDL, I was speaking about Valorant with people. I love esports and its competitive side, and I love hosting games. And I've done a lot with Twitch Rivals recently. And I would quite happily jump into anything. I like Apex Legends. We did a couple of Apex Legends at the moment. I hit Diamond a couple of weeks ago on that as well. So yeah, there are a lot of options. I think if I was going to do something, if I left COD casting now, if there wasn't a hosting job I like the look of, I would probably go internal somewhere with logistics. Like, I would start wanting to run events and esports programs and the programming and stuff and content. That's what I would probably do next after this. I don't know if I would go back into casting. And that's not because I don't love casting. It's just that it's very, very competitive out there. And I feel like I've done this for a decade. I've been a freelancer for 8 years, which is a horrible experience, by the way. Some years, really good. Some years, really bad. I actually had a taxman ask me if I was declaring away income one year. It was so bad, right? Like, he asked me, he's like, are you getting money from other places? Because this is very, very low. And I'm like, nope. No, I am not. I've just had a bad year. Thanks for reminding me. And then the next year it was great. And then last year, you know, I had work coming out of my ears. I couldn't stop working. But that's just how it works sometimes, right? You have to take the rough with the smooth when you're a freelancer. And the first year of COVID was an absolute nightmare. Shut down all the live events, which I'm big in doing. If it wasn't for Activision UK, I wouldn't still be here. But yeah, sorry, I've kind of taken that entire question on a tangent. But there are lots of options for me. I do an awful lot of things.
I can definitely see why there's a whole range of options, because you've been around the scene since, like, what I said earlier, it was 2013 and I got that wrong. But I can see why there's an availability for you everywhere. But as you've stolen one of my questions, I'm just going to throw this one out there. Miles and Chance have got their own pre-show ritual, where they sing Queen to each other. And what is yours and Tons, or do you even have one?
I've never heard them do that in the green room. I imagine they probably still do it. There's not to us.
You'll have to get them to.
Let me think. Me and Ton don't really have a pre-show ritual. We just insult each other until we go on camera and then continue doing it. Which, I was speaking about Ellen earlier, and I said how well she's done the first year. She came into that relationship with me and Ton, who've known each other a decade, and just coped with it. Because it's, by the way, Americans, when they first meet us, don't know how to take us, because we're very dry and sarcastic, and I'm just saying horrific things to Ton about his talent and about everything else about it. He's doing the same to me. And it's completely fine, right? Obviously, we're very good friends, and I think I spoke to him earlier today. But, like, to see that from the outside is going to be like, what on earth is going on? Like, just jumping into it and just insulting him straight out of the gate, and dealing with it. And the American producers understand it now, and obviously Ellen came into that relationship with me and Ton knowing each other, and just got on like a house on fire. Like, genuinely, that relationship last year was just a lot of fun. We would go in, there would be jokes before we went live, everything else. So we don't really have a pre-show ritual. We just kind of chill, talk like friends do. I think the only thing we have been doing more and more recently is usually we'll sit down and talk about the game that's coming up, key points that we need to cover. I go through my notes. It's something I'm getting more and more fastidious with casting, because I am determined to improve my casting this year. And I would have notes for hosting, and I'm bringing more of that into casting and making sure that when we go into it, I'm prepared. There is a Word document usually on the screen in front of me when I've been doing these remote broadcasts with stuff on it if I want to talk about stuff. My other pre-show ritual, okay, so I don't do this one anymore, but it used to wind up everybody I worked with. I would just say, ladies and gentlemen, over and over again, over and over and over again, until I was happy with how my voice was for the intro. So it was my way of warming up my voice, put myself in that space mentally, and making sure I sounded okay. So I would just like the let's get ready to rumble thing. I would draw it out. I would just say, ladies and gentlemen, over and over again, and get myself into the caster voice, because my natural accent is not really an awful lot like my professional one. I am quite Southern and very Essex, and I had to kind of drag that out of everything else. So that's kind of like a mental switch for me. Nowadays, my accent is a lot more neutral regardless. And it only gets more professional when I go on camera. It's as natural as flicking a switch. It's kind of crazy how quickly I can change it. I can change it into the professional. Changing it out of the professional is not so easy. That just happens naturally over time. And very much if I'm with my cousins, or I'm in Essex, or I've had a few drinks somewhere and I'm tired, then it will come back out. But yeah, so that's kind of the only ritual I have or had.
During London events, the crowd has a few beers. That's just how it is at London events. But how do you feel being from the UK about London crowds and how they are?
London is fantastic and the crowd is fantastic. In fact, that's probably one of the only crowds that convinced me to drink. I've actually been pretty much sober for the last 4 or 5 years. And it's a surprise to a lot of people who don't know me. I very rarely drink nowadays. I used to be quite a prolific drinker, especially when I first came into esports. Loved to drink. Can't even remember one of the lands I went to when I competed. Like, couldn't remember the games I played, and we were just out because I was so hungover. And I stopped drinking. I don't drink any time at an event now. Just never will drink up until Sunday night at all. It's never worth it. I will drink sometimes on the Sunday if I'm with people and I'm in a good mood. Other than that, I don't even really social drink. Occasionally with my cousins who are more like brothers to me, with some of my good friends, but it's not often, honestly. I think I had a drink maybe around Christmas time. And then before then, 8 months before then, maybe. Honestly, if it's more than once or twice a year, that would be it. Like, I don't really drink. Mainly because I didn't like how I was when I was drinking, but also because it just seemed to get wildly out of control. And I was like, you know what? I don't need this. But hey, the London crowd, I'll probably have a drink with the London crowd. The London crowd are incredible, right? The London events are incredible, and we need more of them. I would be there 3 times a year if they would allow us, but yeah, the London crowd are unbelievable, and I hope to see more of them soon.
Let's reflect back. And I say that it's literally been what? When this podcast goes up, it'll be your second week in there.
Yeah.
But how is it feeling personally to be back in the league and being part of the family again?
I feel like I've never really been out of the family. The thing is, obviously, it's the American faces that have changed. And some of them obviously didn't know me and I've been around forever. So there are still people at Activision who know me and are never going away. I think I had a good talk with Miles, actually. Sunday night, I think. And we were talking about it. I still kind of feel like I'm on the outside. I'm not used to this. I haven't signed a contract like this the entire time I've been doing it. I think the biggest contract I signed before here was doing season 2 at ESL. I kind of had challenges last year, but that wasn't a lot of dates. I did a lot of other things. This one I'm actually first time exclusive for the last decade. Apart from when I worked for Gfinity, and even then I wasn't exclusive. So I think, and the reason I've made stupid jokes, by the way, the last couple of things is because I went, look, if I'm going to do this, I'm just going to have fun with it. There's no point being conservative. There's no point being buttoned up. People don't want that. They want us to have fun with them. The Superb Owl joke, I just thought was so bad. It's like, I have to make it. I have to make this really stupid joke. So because it will put me in a good mood and people will find it so bad, they will laugh at how bad it is, right? And it is a bad joke, right? To buy a stuff, and it's also incredibly extra, right? I went out and I bought a stuffed owl off Amazon and put it on my shoulder for my second day of casting in the CDL. And I'm completely okay with it. The first day I made a joke about saying if I had a bad cast, it wouldn't matter because I would just tweet out about bad ping and then everything would be okay. So I took shots at a large crew with the pro players on my first day. And I think I would like to think that's what people in Call of Duty know me for, is that I don't really mix words. And I've been very truthful. When I was doing Spitfire, I was very, very truthful. When I've done videos about the scene, I'm very, very truthful. And because I want to give them a peek behind the curtain. Now, not everything can be talked about, and so there are points where I can't discuss things. But for everything else, then, well, here's how the lay of the land is, right? It's interesting being in the CDL. I don't know if I've fully got that experience yet. I feel like I won't feel like part of that until I go to the event and meet everybody properly, right? I've just had emails and a couple of Zoom meetings, and I've spoken to people like Ethan, the producer, who's been fantastic. And the talent team I have known forever. But that's a different bit. Like, I know people like for so long. Like, I was at the Envy House with Ant, right? When he did their running Ghosts. I was there. I was at the pre-land. I did the whole pre-land with them. So yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting feeling. I don't feel like it's sunk in yet because it's so new. So I still kind of feel a bit weird about it. Like at the moment, I'm like, oh, actually I have rehearsals Thursday, and I don't have the full meeting thing and everything. And there's people I still need to talk to, and people I don't even know how to speak to them about it. But yeah, other than that, it's good. I think it's good.
I'm going to be nosy. I want to peel back that curtain. We see you guys come in. It's as if nothing is happening behind the scenes, but you have a green room, and I want to know what it's like in that green room, because if you're saying Miles and Chance haven't sang, what's going on?
Okay, so I'm going to take your question. I'm going to manipulate it a little bit. Green rooms by themselves are interesting. Some are better than others, and it's very much to do with the people in there. There are green rooms that have been very, very bad. They're tense. It's weird. The energy's bad. Because most of the time you're going in to relax, and people are being antisocial in there. A lot of the times, people chatting, chilling, being very, very friendly. There are some that have been bad in other esports. There was once it was bad in Call of Duty, but I won't tell you where that is. Unfortunately, I'll never be able to figure it out. But somebody in there was just incredibly toxic and ruined everything. And I'm glad I don't have to work with them anymore. The green room at the moment in the CDL is great, by the way. Like January is probably one of the best green rooms I've been in, right? Everybody on that talent team gets along super well, and they're all super positive. And I feel like me and Ton coming in has added a new dynamic to it, because we are very sarcastic. We do like a good roast with people, but the vibes are still good, right? Here's the thing. That green room is so good that if I see by the way, we all go to the green room on our days off. Like when I was working I was in the green room. I was talking to the casters. We were chatting, having a good time, discussing the game. They are trying to get weekly VOD reviews now, which is something we don't regularly do. Outside of work hours, we'll go through and critique other people's casts and try to improve. But that only comes from a place of love. And you can't do that if the talent team isn't getting along as well as they currently are. At the moment, I love every single one of them, right? I've worked with all of them before, and they're all great, right? And this year, they just want to be even better. They are putting in an incredible amount of effort to put on a very, very good show for everyone at home. So that's why they may take it a little bit personal when people are criticizing like either a caster or a member of talent or whatever, because they're like, you have no idea how much these people are trying to make the show the best possible. The green room is great. There is so much talking, gaming, conversations, jokes, everything that goes on in there. And it's just a Discord at the moment. But when we get to an event, it'll be the same thing. High fives coming in and out of it. You're great. You're great. Everything else. Someone throws an insult and probably Ton, and then it just kicks off into throwing an American versus UK thing. It's great. And it's not always the case in esports. I hate to tell you this, but some of people's favorite personalities are dicks. And it's never the ones the fans think it is. That's the worst part about it. It was like, oh, this person is loved. It's like, no, they are terrible, and I've seen it. Right? It's never the ones you think it is. Because it was like, oh, I love this guy. He's so awesome. I'm like, no. Terrible. Awful person. Terrible person to work with. But yeah, so this one's great. Like, genuinely great. And I can say that with full honesty that the green room at the moment, I hope it doesn't change.
What would you name your autobiography if you had a choice?
I don't know. Probably be something stupid. That's the only thing I can think of. Is I wouldn't be able to not poke fun at myself.
Mm-hmm.
Probably something to do with bad hair and like bad hair at esports. It'd be something really stupid just to poke fun at myself about it. And also then I'd lawyer up, because any title book I wrote about this industry would ruin some people, because it's been the Wild West for a decade, and people have done some bad stuff that I really wish I could do and call out. And don't get me wrong, like it's just stuff that's just so insane that I'm like, the problem with it is like calling out would just get me done for libel, or slander. I can't remember which one's the verbal one now. And then that'll come out eventually. Another decade. Stupid things people have done.
Although you mentioned that you're part of a exclusivity contract with a CDL, where do you see yourself in a year? Because you're clearly a person for personal development and wanting to always improve yourself. Like you say, you've got a stats document open all the time and things like that. But where do you see yourself?
I'd love to be lifting an award at the Esports Awards, but that's not going to happen. And that's not even just being, self-deprecating. That's more just being honest about it. I need an awful lot of work to get anywhere near the level of Miles and Chance and all that at the moment. I don't know. It's the thing is, I am exclusive, but I can get permission to do other stuff if it's outside my regular workouts. So the CDO is actually quite flexible in that regard. I would just like to be able to just do what I like and just enjoy doing it. The difference the problem I think I'll probably have this year is that I've been very, very independent. I have turned down jobs over and over again in my career. One wanted me to move to America. One wanted me to move to Germany for like year contracts, and I've said no to all of those. Probably, maybe shouldn't have done. Maybe I would have been in a different position now. I think at the end of the year, the only thing I really want is to look back on this year and say, yeah, I did the absolute best I could. That's all I want to know. I just want to look back and say, you know what, I did the best I could, and it was good enough. It was good enough for me, and it was good enough for the fans and everybody I work with, because that's all I really care about. I don't care if my followers got 10 million. I don't care if, I become a massive content person. I don't care what happens. I would obviously like to come back to the CDL next year. But I suppose it depends how many stupid jokes I make during the year about owls. But hopefully it's all good and they appreciate having me there and everything else. The surprise announcements they have coming out. Everybody loves those too.
Recently in the podcast, you've mentioned that you've always had this mindset of what's next and thinking ahead of things. But let's reflect back and think about, if you were to return back to a managerial mindset that you've had, what kind of team would you build if you had to manage your own team in the CDL? And I'm just going to throw in one little caveat. It has to be all UK based or European based, either or.
Oh, and I'm guessing I can't have current pros, right? Like that would make it way too easy.
You can have whoever you want.
Mix of Ultra and London, then. I think that's probably the way I would go. I think there's some very talented players in Europe. This problem for me would be is I would have to put a lot of research in. If I'm making a team, I'd do my due diligence and I'd make sure they have the right attitude. I think a lot of players at the moment are idiots. And I don't mean this in like mental capacity. I mean in just the capacity to live in the real world. I've always had peeks behind the curtains in teams, and some of the stuff I've already heard this year is insane. I've kept my tongue, by the way, for the last 5 years about players. There are some really stupid decisions that have been made. There are some players that are just throwing their lives away, and they don't know how to be professionals. The one thing Call of Duty needs right now is professionals, and it lacks professionals. People are still thinking they are that player in their bedroom having a good time for no money. They don't want to turn up on time. They don't want to be coachable. They don't want to communicate properly. They don't want to be adults who are looking at this to win and get the absolute most out of the experience. And some of that's their fault. Some of that's the fact that it's been like that for a decade, and some of it's the coaching stuff. I think right now, players are, you saw the London Royal Ravens, they look fantastic recently. A lot of that's to do with the player attitudes, a lot to do with the ultra attitudes, especially as well. And it would probably be a combination of those. If have free reign and it's European players, it'd be them, because I'm still going to play to win. If it was old retired players, then I'd probably just go on a throwback and grab like Swan, Magcad, Jed, and some others and throw them in just for good old times, but probably would win anything nowadays.
It's funny you mentioned that. And with the mindset you have, it's clear that you've got a point to prove. But if you had to mention someone, like who do you look up to and why?
Oh, it's a very good question, because I haven't taken an awful lot of advice off people. There are some friends of mine who are very level ahead. A guy called Arthur has always tried to steer me down the correct path. I think people like Hastro, I've always kind of looked up to. I think he's done an awful lot for the scene. I think people like Sir Scoots, who was one of the pioneers of esports, who's a friend of mine. I think Puckett was one of the quintessential hosts who I've always looked up to. Golden Boy is a talent all to themselves. Shocks is a talent all to themselves. These are the hosts I look up to. The people who are just so good. Machine is another one. Unbelievable in talent-wise about what he can do. And I don't think I can replicate that, but I can steal little bits from him. So by the way, from my work, incredible as well. Like, these are the people who are incredibly open and warm, and that would be the hosting direction stuff I would take. The other stuff, like Sir Scoots, he gave me some tips when I was first hosting. But yeah, there are quite a few. I think my next kind of mentor will be when I change directions. And that'll be about getting into the next place in the industry I want to be. Whether that's a content creator, I don't know. I've done content creation before. I think I'm very good at the idea part of it. I think I can build stuff. I had meetings about that, funny enough, in the off season, about massive events and NDAs and all kinds of things. And I enjoyed that. And I think that'll be a great place to explore because I've done a lot of events anyway, and help kind of build them from the ground up. So, yeah, it's an interesting question. I think Miles at the moment as well as me have great conversations about casting and everything moving forward. Miles has been great for me this year. Let's put it this way: if it wasn't for Miles right now, I don't think I'd be in the CDL. I don't think I would have had the confidence to sign that contract and have faith that the system would be good. Right? He's done an awful lot of background work to make everything as good as it is, and people don't see that because Miles just takes that burden on and carries on.
I am flabbergasted because you have a lot of experience behind you. You've been everywhere and everywhere. You've done lots of different games. But if you had to sum this podcast up and think about one bit of advice, whether it's something that you've received or something you've given to somebody, and it could be related to anything, what would you give?
Here's the main bit of advice I would give to anyone. Just do what you can do and don't worry about the rest. That's the truth of it. It is one of the similar things. A lot of stress is caused by stuff you can't control. If you want to do something, just put your mind to it and go and do it. And it sounds really simple, but it is incredibly hard, right? I have made some wrong choices. I have had choices taken away from me, and I've taken it in the teeth more times in this industry than I could write a book about. But I've got through it. I'm here now. I've joined the CDL, which is a dream I'd almost given up on. I'm not going to lie to you. And I've got there by just getting my head down and working. And when it was shit, people picked me up. When it was great, people patted me on the back. But I just got on with it and only affected the things I could get on with, right? You can't sweat the small stuff if you can't affect the small stuff. Just can't do it.